Hello and welcome to Now We Know, where we revisit traumatic and delightful kids pop culture of the 80s and 90s.
Yep, each episode we picked something impactful from our childhoods to look at through the jaded eyes of adulthood. I'm Kevin Wertheiser, and with me, as always, is Chris Tagnani.
That's right, and with us, as rarely, but it's always such a treat, we have Jessica Rolig.
Hello.
Hello.
It was even better with the visuals of the big build-up.
Yeah.
You folks at home didn't see the neon signs that appeared above Jessica.
A look of soft panic behind the eyes.
Oh no, am I going to have to speak on this podcast?
There's no teleprompter. I just have to come up with my own stuff.
Yeah, it's not working. I can't read that.
It has been a little while since you've joined the show. There was a period of time where I was referring to you as the squeam, the
Squeamish Cream.
the
Scream? Scream queen.
Yes, the scream queen of Now We Know, because you did some of our horror episodes.
But only sequels, which
Only
I
bad.
just re-remembered.
Bad straight to TV. Was Pumpkinhead 2 TV only, or did it make it?
Video.
It only was one VHS copy that was in my and it was in my house.
Okay. Well, yes, longtime fans of the show may remember Jessica from Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings, and Pet Cemetery 2, my childhood trauma. We'd love to have you back on for another of my childhood horror traumas sometime later this year, Halloween times.
Sure.
But today we have a very different subject. You're getting to dip your toes into childhood fare.
Yes.
Still trauma related though.
It's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michelle Trachtenberg, sadly, dead at 39. And so I was thinking about maybe doing Buffy, but it felt weird to do that. I really didn't grow up with it, and it feels like sort of a big investment. And Jessica, you said you had major feelings about Harriet, the Spy.
Yeah. Is this when I talk about
This is when you talk about it. This is why I'm looking at you and saying, now you have feelings about this. And?
Yeah, Harriet the Spy was a big deal in my household. We watched it a lot. It influenced patterns of behavior that were not
Good
legal. Yeah. Like, it was actually just like validation of like 90s style culture war, where like video games and media influence children to like beat their friends with chains or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because my sister and I watched this movie and then immediately just started like doing like illegal surveillance campaigns on our neighbors and like light breaking and entering.
Go on.
Well, it was like the movie.
Yes.
We didn't observe anything all that,
All that compelling
interesting.
inherently.
We would just like hit the neighborhood. I think I was like whenever my sister and I would play games together, I was like always the sub to her dom, where I like if we played like teacher and student, I was always the student and she was the teacher. So I'm pretty sure I was like the scribe while she was like actually doing like the spying.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to like find some of my spy notebooks at my dad's house, but I didn't have time because Kevin and Chris wanted to capitalize on this death as soon as possible. So
I need to be very clear that was not I was not involved in the selection of this episode. So
it's a celebration of life.
Yes. I should also just quickly mention, because on the last bonus episode, we made reference to the death of Gene Hackman. Mm-hmm. And it seems as though some of the comments we made may have been irresponsibly premature.
Sure.
Because it seems like now they're saying it probably wasn't CO2 poisoning.
CO poisoning.
CO poisoning. So the jury's out on that, but we wish Gene our best.
What did you say?
Well, early on,
the afterlife.
Early on, they were saying that he and his wife might have died from carbon monoxide poisoning because they were both found dead.
But what did you say in the podcast that you feel the need to apologize for?
Just that he may or probably have died from carbon monoxide
that was the
poisoning.
information we had at the time. We weren't.
I mean, it sounded like you said something edgy. And
No, yeah.
Okay.
I don't want him to have died I don't want anyone to have died, but he was quite old.
Yeah, he was old.
His wife and dog, much more complicated.
Dog might have been
issue.
old.
We can't say
Yeah.
about dog. Yeah, however old it was, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if it's 1, that's 7.
Right.
I don't know. You get a
already
lot
up
out of
there.
life. Each day, the dog gets so much, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Unlike me, where it's just like, I don't know. What did I do yesterday? Who's to say?
Yeah.
So you took notes on people and you don't remember them being interesting, is what I'm hearing.
So can we
make
little
that into-
remember old
Well, but
Golly's
don't we
advice,
remember
little white lies?
where somebody died, wink, wink.
Look, I don't want to put you on the spot. Have you ever written anything in a diary or journal about me? Because if you have, I'm fine with that, but I need to know.
Is it worse to say that I have never written about you in a diary? Or
I should have figured out the answer to that before I asked.
no, I probably have.
Thank God.
Because I do like a very Harriet style,
Like,
just straight.
very
Like, this is
dull.
what happened. I
Yeah.
observed this.
Right.
Like, tomorrow I'll be writing about what happened today. And so
Okay.
you'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll
Well,
feel a little twinge tomorrow.
This was a very good. This was an immediate and high pressure moment of like, well, what is better, potentially negative attention or no attention at all?
Exactly.
Now I know
Yeah.
the prospect of never having been in that diary. I would
Neutral
have
attention.
I would have died on the spot. Yes,
Yeah.
neutral attention.
And positive, neutral to positive.
Thank
I
you.
did do a podcast, period. Chris and Kevin were present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris was there.
Kevin gave me the creeps.
Chris smelled the lady of the house.
If I were Chris, I would hang myself. That is by far they sort of gloss over it. That is the most out of bounds thing she writes. And then he's the one who sticks up
I
for her.
know,
But
it's
we're,
like, I want to hear more. What happens next? What happens after I kill myself?
I will just add, if it makes you feel more part of a community and less alone in this, you are the second guest on this show who had a career doing childhood spying on a neighbor. I won't put the other one on blast. I don't know if they told the story on the podcast, but you are not the first.
Okay.
There's someone else who has been on these airwaves who peered out their window.
What did they
I
see?
mean, I think it's not uncommon as a kid. You're not in, like, you're out in the world and you're not actually able to engage with it in a proper way. And so spying, quote unquote, is, probably sort of the name of the game as a kid. You're just observing everything about the world and learning what it's like and what people are like and how the right way to behave is. You just aren't writing it down in a journal and like making a big show of it.
True.
And again, spies, obviously, the notion of like what a spy is has changed somewhat over the years. Like even early James Bond versus later James Bond, it's like, oh, he's, I'm just a normal businessman versus like, oh, I'm renowned spy. James Bond, did you want to talk to me? I'm a spy for Her Majesty's government. Maybe you want to get in touch with me. Hi, I'm Valerie Plame. So this was a book that was a big like feature of my childhood that I really don't think I ever actually read, but my brother Ian just would, read a billion books and sum them up to me so much. And this was one that he was very, very into.
Yeah.
Do you remember any aspect of the book? Does it match the movie?
She's like a spy in that.
Does she witness some people doing cupping in the back of a Chinese grocery?
He didn't mention cupping.
Okay.
But I don't remember him ever mentioning cupping. Maybe he just didn't know what it was. He thought they were just doing some magic tricks, with the ball in the cups.
That is an excellent thing to depict in this movie because if you're a kid, you're like, what the fuck
was
is that?
Yeah.
They're
What
like,
is
if you
that?
read the
Sinister, I
book, you're
imagine
like,
this.
I'm just waiting for that one scene so I can finally make sense of that.
As I said during the watch along, I once went on a date with a woman who did cupping professionally and was learning Rolfing. I still don't know what Rolfing is, but maybe some of you out
I remember you saying she was very keen that you start Rolfing ASAP.
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened.
I gotta
And
be.
look at you now.
I gotta be honest. I'm looking at you. The date didn't go that well either. So this was just free advice out of the
Yeah.
kindness of her heart.
Yep.
If you ever want one of these dates to pan out, you better start Rolfing.
Yeah. Rolf often.
Yeah.
She just meant that you needed to do sort of a dog voice and start playing piano.
Yeah. Of course.
Well, I don't know.
You got that right. Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I did read the book when I was a kid. I don't think I saw the movie. Possibly because when the book came out, I still felt within spitting distance of the right age range. But then when the movie came out, I was like, I'm a little old for Nickelodeon movies. Because once I hit 10 years old, I'm like, double digits, baby. Where the rated R at?
Mags?
Yeah, no, I wasn't reading porno mags.
Okay,
wasn't reading them.
But now that you're denying it so vehemently, it kind of feels like...
Back then, I was still in the halcyon days of just using my imagination to masturbate. Remember that, folks? Isn't it grand?
Sure. Yeah, 10, I was still fine with Nickelodeon things, but I was 14 when this came out, and I was like, oh, they're making a movie of this. I was going to be all Nickelodeonified. And it certainly is. But, now, looking back,
didn't you have
very
a kid
charmingly.
when you were 14?
Okay. Just because you're barren.
So, speaking of porno mags, snooping as a child was a really big thing. And that was maybe the only thing I ever found that was like a fun thing. Everything else was boring, like junk drawers and stuff. But did you ever find your parents' porno mags?
No, I don't know. It would not shock me if there was never pornography in my childhood home. My dad was whenever it came up, he was pretty avowedly anti-pornography. And I think the real truth is
his tastes weren't so mainstream.
I think that I heard a story from my older brother that my dad was like too squirrely and like lacking in confidence at one point to just buy like his own condoms at the drugstore.
Oh no.
So I think buying porn was probably right out.
Yeah. I did find a stash of Playboys at the nice house of a certain celebrity that many people know I knew. He had a whole room, a like big theater in his basement, and off to the side of that, of course, were filled with VHSs and Laserdiscs because of the era it was.
Yeah.
And then there was just a stack of Playboys, and so I was like, "Hey, person who is also here helping babysit or whatever that I'm doing here at this guy's house, I'm gonna go look at all those movies." And they're like, yeah, well, sounds like you. But you hadn't seen this since you were a wee lass.
No, and I really am realizing how much we took the wrong lesson from the film.
That would be easy to do based on this.
I don't know. It's pretty clear that she shouldn't be doing the snooping.
Yeah, it didn't work out for her at all.
But
but then it does.
She's happily doing it at the end.
Yeah.
She's still doing it.
Right.
She got everything she wanted.
Yeah.
She never even really properly apologized.
Certainly that. But yes, let's talk through the film.
Yeah.
So we start off. She's already mid spying. We start in media res spying. Harriet.
Almost her most exciting spy moment of the film because she I don't know, kind of stops a robbery, sort of.
She witnesses stopping a robbery.
I thought she was at least there was going to be a thing where the police are like, we can't book the guy, there's no evidence. And then she's like, got it right here. And it's booger burglars. I don't know.
Booger burglars?
He doesn't steal a booger. He steals a purse.
I was trying to think of a mean, nasty thing that she could have written about him, but doesn't write about the crime at all.
Yeah,
it's like
Stinky
his pants,
Man was seen.
If I were this purse stealer, I would eat my gun.
Yeah,
local loser covered in egg.
So she is in the town in one of, as Chris frequently pointed out, the 3 to 4 locations that she does her spying.
Yeah, later in this she says, oh no, people are hassling her, as we'll get to later. She's like, oh, they're all over my route. It's like a real spy does not have a predictable route that people can follow them around on.
Every day at the same time.
Yeah, it's like she's a beat cop.
Right. That's the kind of thing you learn as a spy that other people are doing. You don't do the same exact thing every day.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, look at the, she's taking notes, and it's like Chinese grocery store. And she's like, Chinese grocery store. And then she sees some Hasidic Jews. She's like, children in ringlets. You're like, which direction is this movie going? Because I'm not comfortable with the first 2 examples.
Yeah.
Boy with ringlets. Man with tattoos grow on a leash. Man, if my parents ever tried putting me in one of those things, I'd trade them in. I learn everything I can, and I write down everything I see. Goldie says if I want to be a writer, then I'd better start now. Which is why I am a spy.
But then she sees an old lady get her bag snatched. But the guy does it like very subtly. And then the old lady realizes her purse is missing. And she's like, wait, what? I've been robbed. And then he starts running really goofily and runs straight into, what would now be $10,000 worth of eggs.
Yeah.
And but right next to Harriet. And she's like,
We were all wanting to make that egg joke, by the way. Kevin just stole it.
You can
out from under us.
Do you agree with me that this is what probably would happen if a friend of the show, former guest, and composer of the Now We Know theme, Seth Milstein, attempted to steal a purse? He'd goofily start running away once he'd been seen, then he'd be startled by an area child and fall into a chicken coop.
Not even startled. He would claim he was startled by the child that he didn't see that was hiding in the vegetables. I think he is the most likely person in our sphere for whom this would happen. To whom?
Well, check him out at norush85.bandcamp.com. We love his contributions.
Yep. So, and yeah, she's like, yeah, this is what I do. I spy. I have a little composition notepad and I take notes on everybody in it. And it is good. And everybody around me is up to stuff. The only good person is my nanny. My parents fight all the time and are always off at some cocktail party.
Magical nanny.
Yes, Magical Nanny's played by Rosie O'Donnell in a very restrained role. It's kind of a strange role for her specifically. There's basically no one of name in this cast except for Michelle Trachtenberg, who I presume had not been in a lot at this point.
Yeah,
I think she was just in Pete and Pete at this point.
Pete and Pete. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She's so good in this.
Yeah,
she's a wildly great child actor.
It's astonishing because I liked her stuff in Buffy, and but her role is to be the irritating younger sister. Spoiler, but she, so there's a certain level of I'm lightly irritated when I see this person, but that's her role, and I haven't seen her in very much, but I did come to like her in that. And in this, it's just she's just never feels fake. It always feels really genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Very sad. Shockingly sad.
She spies on the Chinese market. She spies on an old man who has a lot of cats. Mm-hmm. She climbs up a ladder to the roof of his, kind of like a loft warehouse kind of building, which I think was mischaracterized by some viewers of this as almost like a mansion. I realize living here in the Bay Area, square footage is king.
Yeah,
but
he could fix it up.
As I said at the time on the watch along, if you were living there and I came over and was like, wow, this is almost like a mansion, your reaction would be assuming I was being a sarcastic little shit.
Yeah.
Which I think is because it quite clearly is not like a mansion.
That was the challenge of watching the movie, is the parameters of what signifies wealth in the 90s in terms of having a home is so different. So it was hard. It's he's living in this loft space, industrial chic loft space with 30-foot high ceilings.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
he's many, many rooms.
You're clearly not supposed to think he's doing great for money.
Because of his amount of cats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess.
His whole life is his cats. And hey,
building bird cages.
I'm not knocking it. I love cats. I know many people who, it's that meme with the guy in the party, and he's like, oh, they don't know I'm their whole reason for living. They're my whole reason for living, and they're like, no, we get it. You don't have a lot going on. The cat's on the other side. So
I saw another one where the cats are saying, feed us and then kill yourself.
Yeah, they whisper that to you in your sleep. That's why you never let a cat sleep in the bed with you. You get ideas.
Right. It doesn't steal your breath, like they say. It steals your willingness to live.
Yeah, but he has, I think it's fair to say, maybe a few too many cats. He's got tons.
How many is too many? And who are you to say?
I think that for one person...
Keep in mind 20-foot tall ceilings.
And
so
he
you
can build them like ramps.
He can build them
up. Yeah, absolutely. Cat houses.
I think that once you're over 6 per person in the household, I think that's too many.
Okay.
And I'm
so
not
5 is okay.
And I'm not, yeah, I mean, it'd be more than I'd want. I'm not saying that this is some sort of like I'm an authority figure or this is the objective truth.
Yeah.
But rolling it around in my head, I'm like, no, if I saw 5, I'd be like, if I see 6, that's right out.
What if you're, in Logan's Run, Peter Ustinov, there are no humans as far as you're aware that you've seen in 100 years.
Yeah, what
You're
about
out
that?
there,
Yeah.
you live in a library.
Yeah, if I'm in a situation, I would.
You asshole. Would you deny him his companions?
He should kill them.
Well, the truth of the matter is he probably has killed some of them for food.
That's true.
It's not like.
Oh, is that wrong?
Yeah. Oh, he can't live.
It's not like such an abundant smorgasbord out there in
Or
Logan's
charcuterie
Run.
board, if you will.
Yeah.
as the Swiss say.
Yeah, so there's this guy, he's feeding all of his cats. He's got little plates with not, I think, enough cat food for each one on them. He's clearly doing rationing because he's got more cats than he can handle. She peers down at this through the skylight, writes about it in her notebook.
Broken skylight.
When you later see all the mean shit she's been writing about her good friends, I'm like, is there a page in this where she's like, this fucking pathetic old man and his cat? Because when you realize she wrote that stuff about her friends, you're taken aback. You don't really think she wrote mean stuff about other kids in the class,
Right.
but not her core group. So I'm like, what else did she write? What did she write about the Chinese grocers?
What did she write about me?
What did yeah. What did you write about me? So yeah, it's I think we have to grapple with the fact she may not be a fully reliable narrator here.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yes, you would think that she would say something negative about the guy, and she's very sympathetic with him.
She talks about how beautiful his bird cages are that he builds.
Yeah.
And she's pulling for him not to get the cats taken away. The cat protective services.
She probably called him in.
I don't know. She's happy when the guy gets away or goes away.
But she wanted some action.
Yeah.
Exactly, unreliable narrator.
I keep going back here day after day. He's just feeding the cats. I need some other cat-related action to write in my book. I'll call
either
the cat
more or
man.
less cats.
Yeah.
And then later, the guy that comes to be like, too many cats does seem to have succeeded. She goes and there's no cats, and he's leaving with a big burlap sack that is kicking suspiciously.
Yeah, that's rough.
I think the film is implying that this sack is full of cats.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, that's changes.
Blink and you miss it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Really, only when you're an adult do you see these things.
Yeah.
That one was for the adults.
Something about this movie is that the screenplay, I imagine, reads very weird. It sort of has almost no main plot that threads the whole thing together. So as far as her stops on her spying route, we've just described what happens with the cat man. It might be worth just explaining what happens with all of these.
Sure.
And then moving through her.
Yeah, there's the man who does deliveries for the Chinese grocer. He is white and Canadian. And she is suspicious that he is stealing stuff. So then later she learns a little lesson about that. But at the time, she sees him
Question
stealing
your
stuff.
assumptions, everyone.
Yeah. And she's like, thief.
The lesson being just spy a little bit longer.
Yeah, spy harder.
Yeah.
And
when are we doing spy hard, huh?
Slightly adjust so that you're seeing at another angle.
Yeah, her binoculars she uses to spy in this are not effective binoculars. They barely magnify
They're like
things.
horse blinders.
Yeah,
they just block her ability to see as much.
Maybe she's just she's two darting eyes everywhere and she needs, I need to zero in on this right now.
Right.
That sort of the elephant in the room is her possible diagnosis.
Right, yes.
I think at the point this was written, I could also see them just being like, no, she's just a weird girl.
Yeah, they say emotional problems or something.
Yeah, emotional problems. Or I could also see them being like, no, actually, you should be rooting for her the whole time. There's a strain of this kind of movie in the 80s and 90s where characters of all stripes, and kids in particular, will engage in really weirdly sociopathic behavior, but it's clear the screenwriters don't think that it's it's not supposed to put you off,
right?
To the extent
like Dennis
that it
the
does.
Menace type stuff, where it's like you're rooting for him, but he's like putting live dynamite in his neighbors. I don't know.
He put a snake in their mailbox. And he's an old man. Walter Matthau's an old man. He could die from shock if you set off a firecracker on his doorstep. That might be it for him.
Yeah, but he's mean, Mr. Wilson. I believe. I haven't seen the films,
He's
but
not as mean as Harriet.
Is he the same guy that
He doesn't
owns
send Dennis the
Marmaduke,
Menace
or
a letter saying, kill yourself.
she didn't send it. It was read in spite. All that they're doing is prying into her thoughts.
That's
you're allowed to have
exactly it.
negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So yes, Chinese grocery store. There's some sort of triad shit going on there. There's like the big boss who's getting cupping done, and then there's the no good Christopher type the Sopranos guy.
Yeah.
Not you, Christopher.
Yeah.
And who's like being brought to task, and he's like while the big boss has acupuncture needles in him, he's like telling him off and like slapping him around. So there's stuff going on. She's just like, I don't know. I'm not here to judge other cultures. She sort of says the least about them. Then who else we got here? She's got her friends. There's the nice lady with the cool garden. That's not really a spying operation.
Yeah, they just someone scouted that location and they're like, we got to use this.
Yeah, it can be whimsical here.
Yeah.
When we got here, I was like, I hope this is Eartha Kitt here, because then this would make 2. Now we know canon entries where she lives in a weird artistic junk garden.
Yeah.
Or in a
this one
scared stupid.
is like clean and pretty and nice and golden toned.
Yeah.
The whole look of the movie is very like 90s Nickelodeon, which at the time felt like, oh, you're trying to make it slick, you're trying to sand off the edges and whatever.
It's rapturous nowadays.
Yes,
right,
it
totally.
looks so good.
Yeah, it really does.
Oh man, imagine that. You're a kid and you go to see a movie for kids. Look at all this color.
Yeah.
No,
I'd rather real things happening.
I'd rather this all look a little more like pea soup.
Yeah. So her good nanny, Golly, takes her and her
Old
friends.
Golly.
Old Golly.
Yeah.
All right. Takes her and her friends to this fanciful garden and
whimsical.
There's whimsical. It's sort of like an exploratorium, but in somebody's garden.
Cool.
Anyone ever been to the
bubbles.
Tactile Dome?
I was thinking that same vibe.
Yeah.
Did you go in the Tactile Dome?
Yeah.
At the exploratorium? Me too. That part where you get up near the top and there's that weird little rim of couches up there. When we went there in, I think, high school, people were like, do you think people ever fuck up here? I was like, yeah, obviously.
It's like
the people who work here, once it's closed, they come up here and they fuck and they sprinkle baking soda on the shag or whatever and they leave.
Yeah. And they piss in the toilet that's like, no one's ever pissed in this toilet. You can drink out of it. It's normal.
What are you talking
You
about?
haven't seen that?
No.
That's new
it's in the
Exploratorium.
Tactile Dome?
No, new exploratorium.
You drink out of a toilet?
Yeah,
there
there
was
was
a
a toilet, but it's never been used as a toilet. So it's like messing with your worldview.
Oh.
Because it's a water fountain.
Right.
It just looks exactly like a toilet, but the function of it is what it is used for.
Okay, I get their point.
The purpose of a toilet is
but it's
what
a
it
toilet.
does. Right.
It's where you pee.
Yeah, but not this one. No one's ever peed in it. But then maybe somebody has.
Yeah.
When I was in 5th grade, we did outdoor ed at the Walker Creek Ranch.
Hell yeah.
And there was an all-day hike we had to go on, and when we got to the top, there was like a trough there. And the guide told us that this was like a place we could stop to drink water or dunk our heads to cool off. And then when we did, he laughed at us and told us that was like a cow trough and there was cow saliva in there. I'm guessing that he was lying about that, but still, it didn't. At the time, I thought it was funny.
Did you laughed it off at the time?
No, I don't know if
get your revenge?
I don't know if I participated. I wasn't thirsty because I had brought a little hiking canteen. I came prepared.
I came prepared.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I brought my own cow saliva.
But I will say I was the kind of kid where even at that age I would have been like, that's a little, what do you... It's that thing where he's having a grand old time, and it's like, well, you just lied to some kids,
Right.
Like
Yeah.
what?
We're going to believe you.
Yeah.
We're not like we're not on the same level here. You're telling us what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can drink out of this.
And the adults in our lives entrusted us to you. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, that was also, I didn't learn until years later. I'm sure you know this, Jessica. Walker Creek Ranch was it was a Synanon facility. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Speaking of
Legendary
snakes
Marin
in the
County
mailbox.
cult Synanon. Yeah, I referenced that earlier, didn't I? Yeah. You used to live in the land of Synanon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. We are from the land of Synanon.
Would you like to do attack therapy?
So, Harriet and her spying. So, she's got two friends. One is named Janie, and the other is named Sport. Unlikely. Janie is a girl. Sport is a boy.
But
Yeah.
consider the father.
The father's a tortured writer. He's not going to name his kid Sport.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah, maybe he just forgot the kid's name.
Maybe-
He's just like, hey, there he is.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
the
Hey,
mom's
slugger.
name. Maybe the mom was a little preppy.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sport. Janie is like a would-be mad scientist type, and Sport is poor. I guess we learn later. It doesn't really come through what he wants other than that.
Yeah,
They're
he's
spaghetti poor.
Yes,
He's
yes,
poor.
that's exactly right.
He's poor, but they do live in an apartment that like I couldn't rent around here now.
Yeah,
it's that
but-
classic thing. Like it's not that nice. You're not supposed to think it's that nice because this is the roaring 90s.
Right.
But it's also like he's kind of his dad is a poorly functioning, impoverished writer who also seemingly is like almost a man-child. Like he can't, like the son is doing all the dishes. He's doing all the chores. I think he's making all the food too.
Yeah.
The 10-year-old son is doing everything.
11.
11, pardon me.
And the father will just fall asleep in the middle of the day and have daymares.
Yeah.
So that's a bad sign.
That's never really explained. I'm like,
No.
they'll circle back to that.
Yeah,
That's
it's like,
clear-
is this what we're calling alcoholism?
Yeah, I think that must be what they're going for
Yeah.
without wanting to say it. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's either hasn't had his medicine or he's had a little too much.
Right.
It could be either.
Yeah.
No. Don't worry, it's just one of Dad's nightmares. I mean, daymares. He says it happens to all great writers before they get their big break.
No.
But when Harriet spies on them, they are like having fun and doing cute like father-son activities. Just,
Yeah.
like playing around, being
Yeah.
goofy and whatnot.
Well,
you
when
find-
you've
yeah.
only had 1 7/8 of a beer, then you're really fun. When you hit that sweet spot.
Yeah. But yeah, and then there's the two girls that she doesn't like, Marion something or another and her little toady.
Marion Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. And Marion Hawthorne dresses like she's going to like an all-girls school, but is
About
not.
to whip some horses or
Yes,
something.
yeah. She gets elected class president / newspaper editor.
As you may know, the duties of the class president include taking attendance, reporting bad behavior, and best of all, editing the 6th grade newspaper.
It's a package deal. This is not something that, any civics class you take, or, if you're learning about potential risk of fascism or authoritarianism in society, the presidential election should not also decide who runs the media.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yet-
no checks and
Yeah.
balances.
Yeah.
This is a pro-free speech movie.
I guess it is, yeah.
It is.
But it's also a pro-lying to protect people's feelings movie.
Yeah. Well, you're free to do that too.
But that's okay. This is skipping to the end a little bit, but like the lesson, okay, I'm realizing old Golly comes back and says sometimes we lie to protect people's feelings and you should go apologize to everyone. She proceeds to not apologize to anyone.
Yeah,
And
so
then
she
just
doesn't do
stands
it.
up in class and does an underhanded tactic of like, well, I think that it's unfair that the president is also the editor of the school newspaper and everyone has come to like around to realizing that she should be in charge of the newspaper only based on her like writing mean things about them in her journal.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold together if you say have met children.
Yeah.
What child after you wrote that about them is going to vote to make you co-editor of the newspaper.
Right. Like
Now,
she was mean, but she was principled.
Yeah, she took a stand against all of us.
yeah. But as we said earlier, the first person to stand up and be like, yes, I support this is the one that she was like, I would hang myself if I was this boy.
Yeah.
Which is definitely the meanest thing she says.
Yeah.
But yeah, she then... the most generous thing you could say is that she gives a general, very non-specific, passive voice apology for the things she said in her first newspaper column.
Yeah.
This is nobody's idea of an apology commensurate with what she did.
Right.
And the
Anyway.
things she said.
Okay, this is the very end. Let's not get too deep into the ending before we have established why anyone's mad at her. Right now, she got 2 friends. She is the enemy of the popular girl. That's like okay, but watching it, not knowing which way this was going, I was like, this seems like bullying. She's like, look at this bitch coming in with her little toady friend. The only thing worse than being her is wanting to be her.
Rachel Hennessy, Marion's second in command. The only thing more pathetic than being Marion Hawthorne is wanting to be Marion Hawthorne.
Like the Liz Lemon 30
Yeah.
Rock thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like she goes back and realizes that she was the complete bully that terrorized everyone.
No. If you're sort of like a nerd, you can't be a bully. It's categorically impossible.
All right. But she's also like, they say, that it's always the 2 of them like running for president. And then, like, she loses.
Yeah.
But so it's like, well, you're the second most popular is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know what the margin is. It's
Sure.
possible there are people who would be more popular who aren't running,
Yeah.
or who know they can't amass the consensus. This happens in American politics sometimes.
Right. Like the Ginger 30s kid. There's a kid that's wearing like a Jughead head like hat that just like out of the blue shows up at one point. I guess he's been in the movie up to this point, but when he appears when they're like all in the park, he looks like he's from a different movie.
Yeah.
Chris had Little Rascals.
A
I think it's
different
frankly a
time.
little earlier. I was like, well, of course there's 30s kid. He just wants to play stickball. But anyway,
Real red wagon.
So, yes, old Golly is great and is like supportive and very weirdly restrained, but still whimsical and sort of Mary Poppins energy. And she's kind of like Mary Poppins saying like, well, when the wind changes, I will be going. But for now, I'm here and, enjoy it while I'm here. Then she brings a date to her nannying night. She then screws up the dinner, which she clearly didn't want. She said she wouldn't take $1 million to eat bratwurst, but then she makes bratwurst for this Canadian, the delivery boy, and
Leaves a bratwurst unattended and over an
Yeah.
open flame.
yes, and then they're like, let's go out to eat and to a movie, and then they come home and the parents are there and mad
In gowns.
in gowns and black tie, and they're like, where was my daughter? You're fired. And she's like, yeah, it's time to go. They're like, what? No, I
can't
just
leave
wanted
us."
to say you're fired.
Yeah. I just wanted to have a big emotional outburst and say you were fired and then take it back.
Yes.
Tomorrow, if not 5 minutes
And have you
from
be
now.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what you did or where you went or why. All I know is this can never happen again. Miss Golly, you are fired.
What? No!
Just a moment. This is my fault. Please. It seems awfully sudden.
Actually, maybe it's not. I think you're right, Mrs. Welsh. It is time for me to go.
What?
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 They do a good job with the Canadian, where she's like, "Oh, this guy's a fruit thief and not to be trusted. And he's no good." And then he's just like wacky and fun to hang out with. And she's like, "Oh, I guess actually he's kind of cool and it's fine." And all that stuff is pretty good. But yeah, Rosie O'Donnell's like, "No, I am in fact quitting." And she had said, as you said, like the day before, she's like, "I'm not leaving today." It's like, well, when you say that, I think you mean or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't think you mean
The or
I'm not
tomorrow's
leaving
implied.
literally today.
Yeah.
And when that day comes, you won't need me, and I'll be gone. But you know what? That day is not today.
Frankly, if you have this kind of close relationship with this girl, and obviously they tried to fire you, but if only for your relationship with the kid, maybe at least a 2 weeks notice situation. Don't spring
Yeah.
this on her and be like, I'm gone.
Yeah, I can see it for the firing though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
it's
feel,
like,
yeah.
I'll come hang out with her. in a neutral location or something, but I'm not going to work for you at your house.
Because I feel like that's a kind of emotional blackmail that she should not be falling victim to, where it's like, well, you can't just abandon the kid. It's like, well, this is just a job, you guys.
Yeah, but
Like,
she's
I'm
also
being abused at work.
Yeah, but she's also
definitely.
clearly a weird magic nanny who, like, you're the most special little girl in the world. In that context, I think, okay, fine, a day. I'll be back tomorrow. Something.
I love when
Like-
she comes back later for one day, and I just imagine she's charged like a really, really high consultant's fee for
Yeah.
I'll come back, but it's like $1,000 an hour rate.
Yeah. I'm going to tell your daughter that sometimes she has to lie.
should
That's the skeleton key to all these problems she's having, is she needs to lie more.
I feel like the wink to the audience is like she's lying when she says Harriet is the most special little girl that can never be replaced.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go be some other kid's nanny now?
And love them more than you? Never. Remember, in my life, in this world, there will always only be one Harriet.
So Harriet has a big notebook. It's one of those 90s notebooks that's like the mottled black and white cover with the black soft
Yep,
spine.
composition.
I had one of these.
Sure.
But she has scrawled private in big letters on the front. This is not something a spy would do.
No.
You want your notebook to look unassuming.
Yeah, right. English.
Yeah.
No, not English. Write in code that only
No.
you understand.
Fine,
what,
what's
right in-
inside, but I'm saying on the outside,
Oh, yeah.
write English homework.
Oh, right.
Okay, fine.
yeah.
We'll,
No, math.
we'll compromise. Write English homework in Esperanto.
Yes, I did say she should have learned shorthand.
Yeah.
Because later they're like, "Hey, I don't know about this." It's like, yeah, just write in a code. Obviously, of course.
So
They're not going to even know, like, A equals 2. They're all over the place. They won't be able to figure it out. They'll be like, well, obviously A is 1.
yeah.
Someone didn't do a lot of substitution codes as a kid.
No, I didn't.
I still feel such a strong affinity for those notebooks, by the way.
Oh yeah,
It's
me
for-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't remember if I saw the commercial for this, because I definitely didn't see the movie. Maybe I saw the commercial, or I don't remember if the book designates that it's that kind of notebook. But I remember afterwards being like, "Oh, I should get one of those notebooks.
Yeah.
Those are good. Those are good notebooks." But yeah, I agree.
Classic.
I'd get one right now.
I know. Doesn't it feel like that's like not like fuck Moleskine, fuck all,
Yeah.
like let's
Moleskine.
yeah.
Yeah. When's
That's how it's
Moleskine.
It's pronounced Moleskine. It's not made of
Moleskine.
moleskin. It's synthetic.
Moleskine.
yes.
Moleskine.
Anyways, Harriet. So her OPSEC bad. Her spying not.
So true.
Her spying not really spying, and no, she is really spying. She's just not doing much with it. She's spying to write things down. She Golly leaves. She flies the coop.
Yeah, Golly is basically like, there are as many ways to live as there are people, which is not true because obviously a lot of people live pretty similar to each other, but there could be. And so she's just like, look, this is what you do. You do this weird thing. And I like that. I like it when people do their own weird thing, even if it's
illegal, unethical, immoral,
hurting you, hurting others.
Yeah. Only going to end badly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why she actually left, as she felt the hammer was about to come down.
Yes, it's all about to fall apart. And indeed, Harriet is sitting around just like everything looks and smells the same, but it all just feels empty.
Everything's the same as when Golly was here. It looks the same. It smells the same. But there's this tiny hole inside me that wasn't there before. Like a splinter in your finger. Only this one's right above my stomach.
It's unrelatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gets caught. She goes to Eartha Kitt's house and is in the dumbwaiter of Eartha Kitt's
Well, this is
mansion.
after a series of things just begin to go wrong in her life. The Eartha Kitt thing is one thing, but she goes to the Chinese grocery, and like the employee has crashed the big truck, and then the man with the needles. Why can't I remember what that's called?
It's
Acupuncture.
But sometimes
God, Jesus Christ.
they light the needles on fire, I guess. Or there's some sort of thing. Because they're smoking. There's
Who's
a burn.
they?
The acupuncturist?
Oh, okay.
There's definitely some kind of acupuncture thing that involves heating or like
Well, the cupping involves heating.
right. What I'm saying is, when in the scene with the acupuncture needles, there is like little trails of smoke coming up off his back. There's some kind of inflammatory thing happening as well.
And then she goes to the cat guy, and the cats are in the sack. So it's like everything's going wrong all at once. And then she goes to Eartha Kitt's house, and she's like, maybe I can get a hit here.
A quick dopamine hit by breaking into this old woman's house and just leering at her through her dumbwaiter.
Yeah, she, as the maid is shutting the door, she manages to hustle up and stick a pencil in just the crack of the door before it closes, which is such a good kid thing.
Yeah.
You're just thinking about pencils all the time, obviously. Staring at pencils while you're supposed to be working, wishing you were somewhere else, but there's that pencil that's just going to be the focal point.
That's your multi-tool.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's the Leatherman.
I would run my finger against the little green embossed writing on the pencil. I'd be like, oh, that's the good stuff there.
Dixon Ticonderoga. Yeah.
Ticonderoga, love that word. Never think about it once you stop using pencils. I tell you what, the keyboard, it's the keyboard that killed Ticonderoga.
The keyboard killed Ticonderoga. That's really good.
Can we work that into video killed the radio star?
Yeah, it's kind of definitely
keyboard killed Ticonderoga.
Okay. Yeah. So, but she gets caught whilst watching Eartha Kitt do her weird at-home routine, and I really thought Eartha Kitt was going to be bigger in this because she's like one of the few names in the whole movie.
She like doesn't even speak any lines during.
She does it all.
Okay. What does she say? She just screams.
Oh, yes. What's that over there?
I have the secret of life. Yes, darling. You simply crawl into your bed and you never ever leave it again. Wow. What was that?
I have no idea.
Then why don't you go over there and get an idea? And if it's that rat, kill it!
So yeah, she then is like, okay, I'll go play with the kids. And 30's kid is like, yeah, stickball. And then they're like, no, Red Rover, tag. Yeah, okay, well, stickball, not so far off of these suggestions.
An important thing to note here is that in addition to her carrying a composition notebook that says private in huge letters on the front, she also just keeps it stuck in the front of her pants, in her belt, like covering her belly. And it's never any more than like 1/3 tucked in. It's like almost flopping out.
Yes, you have to be adjusting it constantly.
Yeah.
So of course when playing it falls out. And she's having a good time. She's like, oh, wait, maybe I'm a normal kid and I can just hang out with the normal kids and do normal kid things. But
well, she was wanting to... She basically was like, I'm a shitty spy. I should maybe
because I got
spying.
caught. Good spies don't get caught.
Yeah.
Of course, the mean girl finds it. The mean girl, of course, not as
hasn't
mean as
actually
Harriet.
done anything mean yet.
No, all she's done is like write
be
bad
prissy
articles.
and like have hair that's up
and have the will to power.
Yes, that's
the
true.
ultimate crime of winning the election.
Yes, yeah. You got to stomp this stuff out quick. So she's like, oh, listen to this. Well, here's a mean thing about somebody else. Oh, here's a mean thing about me. Here's a mean thing about somebody else.
Yeah.
And then they're all huddling around listening.
So her mean act is just reading Harriet's own words.
I mean, it is mean to read people's diaries.
I'm not saying, okay, you're right. I won't defend it.
Obviously, Harriet has mean thoughts about everybody. I think that's allowed. I think writing them down is a good way of getting them out. And then you can go and hang out with them. As you saw, she was having a good time with the prissy girl.
Yeah.
I would say, though, it is also reading someone else's diary. Like, it does say private on it. It's also reckless and mean to be carrying your book full of intensely mean things about your friends.
Irresponsible.
Sticking out of your belt and then just leaving it places.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, very few people are going to respect the private tag if they find it in a field with no one around.
Yes. Yeah. But even her friends go and read theirs out loud. Yes, the kid with purple socks who she said she would hang herself if she were wearing those socks.
If I were the boy with the purple socks, I'd hang myself.
The girl she was like, she thinks she's cool because she went away for the summer and grew boobs.
Wait, no. Carrie, get this, guys, okay. Carrie Andrews thinks she's so cool because she spent her summer vacation growing boobs.
Yeah.
Which we all think. In modern today's movies, you couldn't say that.
But something you definitely notice as a sixth grader.
Yeah, of course you do.
And the look on the crushed look on that little girl's face when she says that, she was like the highlight, like give her the Oscar. She was
it was real.
That was a very crushing moment.
Yeah. Well, also there's the girl where she's like, she has a pinched face, and it cuts to her, and you're like, oh no. You, Jessica, you were like, they had to go find the most pinched face girl in the whole audition process, and then make her listen to this.
Laura Peters, her face looks totally pinched.
Yeah, I always think that in movies when they're like, oh, she's something of a plain girl. Yeah. And then they show the girl across the room in the Jane Austen movie.
Right.
And you're like, hey, come on, that's her face. Like,
you
she
can
doesn't get another one.
Yeah, and be like, we know we CGI'd your face to be plainer. That's not what you actually, we pinchified in post-production.
I mean, we've talked about the ethics of child acting before, but certainly that was like a huge... that was a huge calamity. I know one for a fact on the set of the sitcom Growing Pains, because the girl, the daughter in that, they kept making all these jokes about how fat she was. Yeah. And then she got an eating disorder, the actor in real life, because of it. So it's all the sort of thing that shouldn't be going on.
Children should not be in movies.
Yes, thank you.
I agree. They should be on TV, though. They just need to be more responsible about how they write the characters. TV is like the childhood of moviedom. It's the little leagues. So kids should be allowed to be there. You have to work your way up. AA, AAA.
Speaking of which, there's one girl who's obsessed on Ryder Strong. She's got Ryder Strong pictures all over her locker, which then later are vandalized in one of the least mean acts.
It's true. She really got off easy.
Yeah. But I was kind of shocked. Like, Ryder. Yeah. Also, we forgot to mention how good it is. At one point, Harriet is just like thrashing around in bed. Yeah. And just like, and Rosie O'Donnell is like, oh, great. Yep. You're just bouncing around,
Everybody, hello, sixth grade.
Feet off the bed, please.
Okay. Feet off.
Oh, the hiney bounce. Good choice. Very cute, Harriet. Very cute. The neighbors will ask me, what happened to Harriet Welsh? I don't know, I'll answer. Such a shame. She disappeared without a trace.
You, Chris, were like, yeah, it's, you don't really show that usually, but...
That is a thing kids do.
Kids are doing that shit constantly. They're always just like doing like, my body, it's bigger than today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, dumb fucking kid. So all these dumb fucking kids are like offended by the things she said about them. She also says the bad R word about playing hide and seek earlier in this scene.
She believes that the idea of playing hide and seek is that word.
I've got it. Hide and seek. Hide and seek. That's retarded.
It's a word that's coming back in style nowadays on social media in particular. You said everyone was using it in the 90s. I never did because I was a good kid. Okay. And a good ally. But I guess some people, they say like, at a certain age, like you sort of come online. I guess some of us, the empathy just comes online a little faster than others. That's fine. That's fine.
That was a brutal scene, though, I have to say.
Yeah, like, when they're all reading it, and you're like, no, stop
It's devastating because like, if that... I said this during the live stream.
It's not a live stream.
It's a watch-along.
Whatever you call it. I don't fucking know. Sorry. It's a Twitch stream.
That's
it's
why
not
we're
a Twitch
stream.
You can watch me on Twitch. I Twitch now.
Drop the handle.
What is my handle? That's
catchy.
Mr. Christopher Video Machine.
So during the watch along, that like usually in like kid problems in kids movies, when you're an adult, it's like it's not as bad as it felt when you were a kid. Things felt really life or death. But what happens there, where all of her friends find out the horrible, mean things that she wrote about them in the diary, and they're reading it out loud to each other in front of her in this like humiliation ritual. It like truly is that bad.
Yeah, it
like,
is.
That would be change schools.
Yeah.
Never ever see those people again. Like that is that bad. It's over for you. There's no coming back. There's nothing you can do. You're done.
I agree. Yeah, I said that she's like yelling at them to give the diary back, but like you would be better off charging her and trying to steal the diary.
Literally gouging her eyes out, pulling her hair, like do whatever you can.
And destroy the diary. Go there and start eating it. Like anything you can do. And light it on fire.
Yeah, but there's so many of them there, like you might get beat up for attempting this, but at least you're distracting. And then if you get beaten within an inch of your life, then at least you have a little sympathy once they start reading the diary again. Yeah. But you can't just stand there and take it.
Do anything to stop
kick up
this.
Some dust, anything at all. You need a diversion.
Yeah. Your only other option is to leave town right then.
Or just
once they start reading it, just start booking and be like, we got to move
run
now.
Yeah. But yeah, she doesn't. They get it all out. Pretty much everyone is now on Marion Hawthorne's side. They all physically walk over to her and join her cabal. She was already She was already a dominant force. She won the election handily, so her coalition already well outpaced Harriet's. But now Harriet is a girl on an island. No one else there, out on an ice floe. So this then begins the bullying and counter-bullying sequence of the movie, when the spying really fades into the background. Yeah. And it is, okay, Harriet she's aggrieved by this, obviously. There's a real period here of sort of like, I said it was like one of the truer examples of no one to root for, not sure who to root for. It's just kids menacing each other and making each other's lives miserable. All the kids on Marion's cabal, they build their own clubhouse to hang out with, where presumably Harriet is not allowed. Yeah. No Harriet's allowed. Yeah. And then they like wear like they dress up in like armor. And they like rollerblade around and try to like they blow her cover at all her spying spots.
Yeah, so she can't spy anymore.
Yeah,
that one's pretty clever. But they're passing notes about her. Harriet smells, but they're all just like looking at the note and laughing and then passing, and then she finally like gets a hold of it.
There's a scene of her washing her feet and armpits in the school bathroom sink. Right, and it's like, I feel bad for her. It's like, you don't actually smell. That's not what's going on here. They're just saying that.
She also has a fake tattoo. You had thoughts about the fake tattoo, Jessers? The fake foot tattoo. You're like, I remember that. Oh my God, you screamed. You did it.
I know, that's okay. That doesn't mean I have thoughts about it. It's just
well, pretend.
I just remember. It's you know, when you watch something that you haven't seen since you were a little kid. There's like the time capsule of it all, where you like pull it up and you're like, oh shit, like things. It's like buried in there. But the memory of like, sorry, I knocked the mic.
I forgive you.
When you draw on your hand or your foot, I guess, with ballpoint pen, and then you like smash it with someone else, and then you like do a tattoo transfer, it was like a thing. So I don't know if it came from this movie or this movie influenced a generation or the other way around. The generation and the art influenced the whatever, you know, the expression. The
art influencing life influencing art.
Thank you. Yeah. Same with like doing stuff like kicking the can and like stickball. It's like, did we do that because we would watch kids movies where they would do that, or did we do?
I didn't play stickball. I grew up in the late 20th century.
We did, but we did stuff like that. We would be like, should we like we would play the like Red Rover. You played Red Rover,
sure?
Yeah. Like all of those like street games that you would play in like massive like swarms of children.
Yeah, I just remember dogpiling and being in trouble for that.
Doing what? Palm piloting?
Dogpiling.
Mom piloting. Yes, mom piloting.
No, palm piloting.
Oh, palm piloting. I definitely did that.
Did you really?
I had a palm pilot.
Cool.
Yeah. Dogpiling, where you all just pile on each other and they're like,
Jesus
someone
Christ.
can die. And we're like, but it's so fun. And anyone on the spectrum at all is just like, doesn't this feel good though? Just being compressed.
Can I be on the bottom?
Yes. It's so good. So she's got this fake tattoo on her tootsie, and she tries to wash it off in the tub. There's a couple of tub scenes with her, but I don't know. It's all cutely done. It all just feels like genuine and like real kid stuff. And I don't know. I just feel like everybody's so worried about everything all the time now in this direction that it would be like, okay, well, we can't have her in the bathtub.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like kids are in the bathtub every fucking day.
Yeah.
This is a big part of being a kid. It's just like I'm in the tub doing my tub stuff.
Yeah.
You can find me in the tub. And so...
Excuse me, can I get a mailing address for you? Yeah, you'll need to write tub on the top.
Care of tub. So she...
Get the paint next, right?
Yes, the bullying escalates to the point of they're doing a painting exercise. She has had her notebooks taken away. I don't know if she's seeing the therapist yet.
Yeah.
But she is no longer permitted to have pen and paper, basically. That isn't explicitly like a workbook. She gets patted down in the middle of class.
Very humiliating. This is like she's literally like she has to stick her arms out as though it's like, Michael Bloomberg's New York City stop and frisk policy here.
I think it's like a little bit like, I don't know. I was like thinking about Matilda because that movie has really over the top child abuse, but it's like in this, that style where it's like in a different, like this one's kind of in between where it feels still in real world enough that it's like her getting patted down in class and then like what happens next where she's being like, anyway.
Yeah. All the Roald Dahl stuff, that his whole thing is like, this is all much more dire and terrible than you would expect, but it exists within this very peculiar pitch of magical realism where it still feels like, whoa, like you don't feel like it's dragging on you, or that it feels like.
And it's like it's how it feels, It's writing how it felt as a kid.
Right.
The teacher's gonna spin me around by my hair and throw me out the window.
Yeah.
It feels like that's true, even though the actual, like, the facts of it are pretty dull, It's like, I got sent to the principal's office. Even if you get spanked, which has not happened to anybody I know in school, it's not really that bad, It feels like something bigger is happening. And this is like, I don't know, feels like maybe almost something that could happen. Anyway, so she's painting, everybody's painting, and you're like, oh, is she going to, like, write something with the paint? Is she allowed to have a paintbrush? She doesn't have a smock. Everybody else got a smock.
Yeah, she might write on the smock.
And then
this is an extreme too much paint that they each have in their little jugs.
They each have a gallon.
It's not necessary for the amount of canvas you have.
Of only blue paint, too.
And a 9x9 canvas.
If you filled one of these paint jars with Pabst Blue Ribbon, nowadays I'd be paying $10.
Sure. If you filled it with eggs, you'd be
this
paying
economy,
$10,000.
huh, guys? Come on.
And if you filled it with printer ink, it'd be more than gold. So, but anyway, the toady
more than bull semen, they say.
Oh,
ink.
Prize horse stud semen.
Costs less than printer ink.
More.
Yeah.
No, printer ink costs more than the semen.
Than the semen.
Huh.
They both taste about the same. So the toady girl goes and intentionally brings her half gallon of paint and dumps it on our poor Harriet. Not really that poor.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for her at this point.
Very wealthy and mean Harriet.
Yeah.
And the poor kid, she at one point is like, oh, I don't care about money, or I hate money. And he's like, well, if you had less, you'd feel differently about it.
Yeah.
So she dumps it on her. And then she's like, oh, I'll help you clean it up. And then everybody's like, yes, we'll help you clean it up. Just a sinister way. And they have paper towels, but they're just like manhandling her. And just like rubbing all over.
While she's screaming, no, stop.
And then the teacher's like, I'll also get a paper towel.
Yeah, she's like, oh, we'll have her cleaned up soon. And it's like, what? No, don't do this.
Here, let me help you. Get away! Get away!
That's it. Work together, and we'll have Harriet cleaned up in no time.
Don't worry, Harriet. We'll all help you.
No, stop it! I don't need your help! People, get away!
The way the teacher joins in reminded me of the thing in One Small Hero, where the bully like says, this Joey Cooper's too small and he's a weakling. He'll only slow us down. And then the sort of vacant-eyed gym coach is like, I'm sorry, he's right. You're too weak and you'd only slow us down. It's like these kids, this is such it's a lesson in like the dangers of like a mass mobilization. Like they completely cow the teacher and get her in on this really
His mom.
Like something about the way this plays out feels like very perverse and horrible.
Yes.
I think I maybe even felt this more than the diary reading scene. I was like, no, you did this on purpose and now you're all pretending to help me, but you're actually just torturing me.
Yeah.
And I can't handle this.
Yeah.
That was hard watch.
And then finally Marion accidentally dumps a second thing of paint on her. And that's when she screams and runs away.
Yeah. And she goes and gets in the tub at home once again, all clothed.
She gets in the tub in a way that sort of makes it feel like she's contemplating drowning herself.
Yes.
This feels like this is as close as they can come to evoking a suicide attempt in this Nickelodeon movie.
Yeah. It really, she like ponders the water and you see her from underneath the water and like shimmering, and she's thinking of all the terrible things that people have done to her. She's certainly ideating, I would say.
Well, yeah, but as it turns out, what she's ideating is revenge.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, then she goes back to school and she carves each child's name into her desk.
This is like full. It turns into Carrie vibes.
Yes.
Like it's just like, where is this going?
Yeah, the paint is the pig's blood.
Yes. But so for some of them, like one girl, she cuts off her hair. She's got like, I don't know, 8 inches plus of hair in a braid that she cuts off, and the girl's just kind of like, is it gone? And then that's it. It's like, this would be a bigger deal.
Yeah, that kind of seems like she should have ended there.
Yeah.
That was her first act of revenge.
Well, then she like crosses out the eyes of Ryder Strong on the locker. It's like, well, this is a little less bad, isn't it? This one will take 7 years to grow back, and the other one, you can get another tiger beat.
Yeah. But it's also like you would think this would be interrupted after the first one, but like the paint thing, you only ever see one teacher in this school, one authority figure, and clearly if you move with enough force of will, this teacher will roll over for you and not stop you, which is why I assume she moves through this. She has a bullet point list, and she does it so efficiently and ruthlessly that nobody can even imagine like stopping her. It's like a force of nature.
Yeah.
Especially because she's got the list carved into her desk, and she's carving them off after each act of revenge. So it's like pretty easy to prove who's doing this.
Right.
There's only one person who has a shit list carved into their desk here.
Yeah, and the crossing off happens right after the thing happens.
Yeah. For Sport, her poor friend who was basically fathering his own dad, she puts up flyers all over the school that says "Man of the House" and has a picture of his head on a maid.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really a picture because he's wearing an apron. He actually does all the domestic work in his house,
so
and he wears an
picture.
apron.
Okay, yeah.
So she put a real photo of him wearing the apron.
Yeah.
Around costume.
Yeah. That one hurts. That's not too nice. Did she do something like this for Janie? Or sorry, the scientist friend?
I didn't catch what the revenge was for her.
Oh no, she just fucks up her experiment. That's right. She turns up the burner too hard and fucks it up.
Yeah.
But then the worst of it, also the girl who quote grew boobs, she raises her bra on a flagpole.
Yeah. So it's like, once again, as I said, you should be ashamed of your body.
Yeah.
Like I said in my journal, I was just going to keep it to myself, but you want it to be public. Well, here it is.
Yeah. And then Marion Hawthorne, she corners in the bathroom with a bunch of people there, and she's like, you know, all that, because she had written an article for the school newspaper about horseback riding with her dad, and she's like, I don't know how she found this out.
No, it's not explained.
It's not explained. But,
spying, I guess.
Yeah.
But she's like, I heard.
You don't have a father. All those stories about horseback riding are garbage. You made them all up. Your father lives in Amsterdam. He hasn't seen you in 3 years. And you want to know why, Marion? Because he doesn't love you.
And then she leaves, and
Mic drop.
And Marion Hawthorne, her face makes it very clear this is all true.
Yes. Yeah.
Every word of it was true.
Yeah.
And then Kevin made a tasteless joke suggesting that my father doesn't love me because he lives in Amsterdam.
He also lives in Amsterdam.
Which is true. He does live in Amsterdam. It has been about 3 years since, and it's been 2 years since I saw him.
I'm just saying, if I wrote this movie or book and it was like, oh, he doesn't love you, he lives in Amsterdam, you'd be like, What's this book about?
What
do
was
you
this
say?
inspired
Am I
by?
this girl?
I would be like that.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of thing you'd pull. And it would be very, setting aside the cruelty of it, it would be unjust because I'm a good guy. So
No one says that girl's not a good guy.
everyone, I mean, that's a lot of people say she's not good.
Just Harriet mostly.
No, they're friends too.
Yeah,
in the
they
beginning.
do all like act like, oh, I'm gonna throw up because she's in town.
And
she's
then
around.
and then the whole school betrays her by usurping her constitutionally vested authority. So after all these acts of revenge, she is sent to a child therapist who sort of wins her over by playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. But then his office is like the vision of like, what is child psychotherapy? Right. Well, presumably he has enormous models of enormous foam jacks with a huge ball, a big red ball in the corner, toys everywhere. And initially I thought, oh, this is going to be like, this guy's out to lunch. This guy's a weirdo. But ultimately the point is, no, he's more, he actually gets the job done here. Seemingly in one session.
Yeah.
You've been cured. But he basically deduces from talking to her that no, she does need the notebook. The notebook is important. Banning the notebook is causing more problems here than it has solved. So she gets the notebook back with some common sense stipulations. The mom gives her the notebook back. She's like, I didn't read your private book. She tears up a lot of notebooks, but those ones are marked diary, so they are not the premium notebook she wants more than anything else.
Notes.
Exactly. And then Golly comes back for one day only.
$1,000 an hour.
Yep.
Consultant fee.
And she's like, sometimes you wrote in that notebook and you told the truth, but sometimes sometimes it's important to tell a little lie so we don't hurt the feelings of those around us.
You have to apologize and you have to lie.
You said never to lie.
I know. I did. Sometimes a little lie that makes people feel better isn't really wrong.
It's like, as I said, some of it could be interpreted as caustic truths. Some of it is just straight shit-talking people, and it's not true.
Yeah.
There's not really an engagement with the full weight of the things she wrote in here, let alone the things she subsequently did.
Right.
Is it telling an uncomfortable truth to be like, you lied, your dad doesn't love you and he lives in Amsterdam? I think that is a little bit
She's
beyond.
speaking truth to power.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, it's true. She is the class president.
Right.
It's like standing up during the State of the Union. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Your father didn't love you.
You lie.
So she's like, you should apologize to the people you've hurt. But then Harriet doesn't. She goes to sport and she goes to her science-y friend. In the case of the science friend, she climbs in through the window, startling her, ruining this experiment and burning a hole through the floor.
That she's been working on for 3 months.
For 3 months. And she doesn't even apologize for that.
Right.
She's so rigidly uncomfortable with the idea of actually apologizing for any of this that she can't get it out. Her friend's like, well, then get out of here. She leaves, and she sort of mutters an apology to herself once she's out of earshot.
Then why are you here? I just want to say that. What? Forget it. Fine. Forget it. Sorry, Janie, okay? Sorry.
Then sport, she goes and spies through his mail slot and sees that his fail dad is celebrating because he's got a check for $10,000. I tell you what, this scene where he's like, I finally got the check for $10,000. This is the day that never came in my household. There was a lot of conversations about,
someday
Any day now.
if League does well,
about the done deal check that was about to arrive in the mail, and that usually came about one day before. These bastards at I probably shouldn't say the name of the publishing company,
right?
These bastards at XYZ Publisher, they fucked me again. It's like, well, this is why you have a contract.
Right. Yeah.
Contract law precludes some of these things.
Yeah.
The point is he's made good.
Uh-huh.
But Sport says, she's like, oh, he sold his book? Then he's like, he got a real job. It's like, well, what do you mean a real job that cuts you a $10K check?
Yeah.
Right when you get it. And then later she's like, he finally sold his book. So I think this is just like a botched thing in the screenplay.
He's just like being a
Pothole.
shit. He's like,
Yeah.
no, we've got a real job.
Yeah, but the dad's like, I want to go to the nicest restaurant in town. You want to come? We can abuse the waiters. Yeah. This is a good lesson in the petty bourgeoisie here. It's like, now I got this $10,000. I got a fat stack.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like going to the fanciest, schmanciest restaurant in town. We'll abuse the waiter.
No one listened to me until I had this check.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's like apologizing outside the door after she has like already fucked things up with the people each time.
Yeah.
And then, she comes into class. You think that she's going to say a big apology. She raises her hand at the beginning of the day, beginning of homeroom. And she's like, I wanted to say something, which is that I think that the president and the editor of the newspaper should not be the same person. And it should actually be two different positions. And I should be the editor. And the kid who...
She says it even more snake-like,
Yeah.
duplicitous, where she's like, I just had a thought that
It's too much work.
It's too much work
Yeah.
for one
She's so
person,
tired.
and it's not fair to the rest of us, and it really should be two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that it's too much for one person. And that it's not fair to everybody. Because everybody deserves a chance.
And then the teacher is like immediately on her side, like, well, Harriet.
Yeah, and Marion, who, again, she won an election, and not just any election, she defeated this person in a direct two-candidate election
And
for
the
this
election
position.
is mostly about this. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot the class president does other than the newspaper.
Yeah, and again, this is sort of, if there were a modern-day political parallel to this, if we were to map this onto modern politics, Harriet would be Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's so true.
Trying to gun for a redo on this election, and then also, like, sort of insinuating, like, that it's sort of for everyone's good and everyone's best interest.
And everyone just
everyone goes
inexplicably
along
has
with it.
amnesia about things that he said in the past.
Yeah, because on top of everything else, the whole thing, all the bullying she did to the other kids, whether it's vengeance bullying or not, the original sin was these horrible things she wrote, and she was not allowed to hold a notebook. She wasn't allowed to enter the room with a pen and a notebook, and now she's like, I really think I should be in charge of the newspaper. Like, this is mad.
Yeah.
But then, like, the people standing on the desks in Dead Poet Society, it's like, well, who's going to speak up for Harriet's right to run the news?
Right.
And the first one to stand up is the one that she was like, I'd hang myself if I wore those socks. And he's like, I think she's probably got some interesting things to say. It's like, grow a backbone. I would hang myself if I had this little self-esteem. And then pretty soon everyone is on board, even her friends that she didn't apologize to, who kicked her out of their homes a day earlier.
Yeah, but they've been hanging out with Marion, and they see that she does kind of suck. It's like, oh, she does. She was right. Maybe she was wrong about me, but she was right on Marion.
It's not I guess she has sort of forced it to be a binary choice now.
Yeah.
But also, Marion's stewardship of the newspaper is not a threat to these kids.
Sure.
Her only article you know of is the we now know to be fake and self-serving I ride horses with my daddy article.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like a broadside against named students in the school, which is what you have to worry about with Harriet. And it is ultimately the end of this movie is like her reading her first article as a narration, and you're seeing scenes from around the school. She, in a very milquetoast way, and with like the most snake-like passive voice, 10 killed in police-involved shooting, like that level, she's like, this editor would like to apologize for some of the things written. I think she may say in this column, but that's not accurate.
No, she said in a notebook.
In a notebook.
Something.
But like she doesn't apologize by name to anyone. She's completely distancing herself from the whole thing.
And then she takes one final jab at Marianne.
Yeah, saying her play sucked.
No, she brings up the dad thing again.
Oh yeah.
So she wants it to be in print. She wants it to be in the paper of record.
Yeah, again, this is the Donald Trump thing where he's like, "Oh, I don't actually think that Ted Cruz's dad killed JFK. I would never say something like that." Yeah. He's like,
"This newspaper would like to retract certain statements in a certain notebook which may have hurt certain people's feelings. They were lies. And those that weren't lies were mean. Like, just because a person's father is far away does not mean he doesn't love you. Anyways, don't think about it."
I want to make it very clear, just because someone's dad lives in Amsterdam doesn't mean they don't love their daughter.
Right.
I just want to put that out there. It doesn't mean that. Like, it's very funny how easily you could take all the wrong lessons from this movie.
Yeah. It seems like there's like maybe one scene missing or something right before the Dead Poet Society scene where they all like they all become free speech absolutists and they're like, give her a paper, damn it.
Yeah. But none of them want that power for themselves. They only want to give it to the person who is known to be the least responsible with the written word.
Yeah. Like she puts out a paper of apology before this, would make a certain amount of sense, like just to distribute to the class.
Or if you had even had the scene where she apologizes in front of the class, which is what you really, I sort of respect the movie that it's really teeing you up to think that's what's coming. And it's like, no, I'm getting darker. I'm getting worse.
Yeah.
Another Trump parallels, it really does seem like it's not that people like her. They were all turning against Marianne because they're like, this is kind of boring, like in their clubhouse. It's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah.
Well, I don't like her told me to hang myself policy by making for that tax cut.
Yep. And Marianne
she
puts
learns
on
nothing.
A lame play that nobody likes, and she says, some people said they didn't like it. I won't comment, but people say that it sucked ass.
This is an excellent lesson in this is why our media sometimes is failing. It's people like this.
Yeah.
This is unethical journalism.
That's not why it's failing. It's doing great. The unethical stuff is selling like gangbusters.
So, yeah, the play isn't going well, but then they start playing some hipper music.
Hipper.
Well,
because they're playing classical and they go to James Brown.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still 25 years old.
And then smoke starts billowing out of a nearby vent. Did they set off a stink bomb?
Yeah, it was a stink bomb from
the
science friend.
But I said that it was like the Joker's bit at the end of the bat.
Now the time has come to end your worthless lives.
And now comes the part where I relieve you, the little people, of the burden of your failed and useless lives.
So that's Harriet.
And that's how the movie ends. It was very surprising that there was not the real lesson learned. It was like maybe lie to people, and then she doesn't lie to people, and then.
Yeah, you do get a quick wrap up on the spying route where you see that the Chinese grocers are handing out bread to poor children out the back.
Yes,
and the old man gets a cat back.
Right,
he doesn't get his full.
He has a kitten. He seems to smuggle into it via his. His
you shouldn't have to smuggle in one cat. He's just on a list now.
Yeah.
We can't give this guy a single cat or he'll fly out of control.
Which I always think is ridiculous because it's like, okay, we should just be killing the cats.
Yeah.
Like, those are the options. We should be killing these cats. He's not taking care of them. Like, wouldn't they rather just be not treated well? I know you can't really interview them, but still seems like a certain amount of logic. I'd rather live in poverty and only getting a small amount of food each day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the Eartha Kitt wrap up I didn't really get.
Yeah, she's just at the play.
She just went back in the dumbwaiter to spy on her more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was that. And then you don't get a wrap up with old Golly. So it's like, what happens to her? Does she stay with the delivery guy? Does she travel the world?
She's traveling the world.
Does she get another job?
Right. She's traveling the world and the delivery guy's railing her nightly.
Or she, like, the next kid that she nannies, like, also she kind of grooms them into becoming a spy as well.
That would be a good postscript if you realize that this whole thing was seeded by Golly. And
she's a CIA operative that's trying to train the next generation.
Yeah. Anyways, that's Harriet the Spy, everyone.
Harriet the Spy.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Jessica?
Mixed messages. Not sure the lesson that we're supposed to get from it, which I guess is kind of like refreshing for a kid's movie. It's very morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
It was not, there were like things that I remembered like clear as day, like her making tomato mayonnaise sandwiches, like just really, really stuck with me. The stuff about her diary being read was really big also. I feel like that is, I didn't even realize this, but I've had like this very, very long like I have recurring nightmares. It's like something that I'm like really obsessively paranoid about is like people reading my diary. It's just like a big theme in my life. And it's like, surely this has something to do with it. Because I don't think that there's any other media I consume that was like a traumatic, like someone being exposed in that way. And that was like really brutal, and it goes on for a really long time, and like it really does ruin her life.
Do you, given that this is clearly a closely held trauma thing for you that you worry about, I'm not asking for specifics, but like in your life in diary writing, do you just have your diary in a drawer, or is there some level of security?
Where is my diary?
Yes, where is it? I'm not asking where it is. I'm just asking if you...
I'm not going further down that line of questioning.
Okay, all right.
I won't even confirm if I have a diary currently.
Okay.
But, I mean, I did when I was a kid. My sister and I watched this movie. We got really into spying, as I mentioned. But then that impulse got turned on one another, and so my sister started sneaking into my room and reading my diary. So
which
that's
would be a better thing for Harriet to have to deal with. I mean, she's not spied on. You know what I mean? She's exposed, but not in like a spying way.
You want a spy
where it's like,
versus
somebody's
spy.
been watching me.
Wait a second. Yeah, why don't they explore that in the
like,
movie? She doesn't have that. The like that's what old Golly should have fucking said to her. It's like, hey, how does it feel to be exposed like that?
Right. Yeah.
And be have your privacy violated.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, it was.
So she did it to you, and you were like, "That's cool." Turnabout is fair play.
When my sister read my diary,
yeah.
Well, but I didn't. I don't think I ever did it to her. But it was because I never.
That happened to me with my brother.
Really?
When he read my diary, I was like, "Well, I thought you read mine." I was like, "Did you?"
So I think that reading someone else's diary is like one of the worst things you can do to another person. Even if you had your like journal lying here in front of me on a table, I would never ever open it. It would make me feel physically ill to even think about violating, because it's like you're like ripping their head open and peering into their innermost thoughts and feelings without their consent. And I have like very, very strong opinions about this. I am like, this is something that's not like, this is underappreciated, because people will admit to snooping and reading other people's like journals and stuff. And I'm like, you are admitting to something that you should be like ashamed of that. Like that should make you a social pariah. And then like stories of parents that read their kids. Like I know so many people who their parents would read their journal growing up. I'm like, that's child abuse.
You're allowed to have your own private thoughts, and you should be allowed to like express them in some minor way that doesn't impact anybody else. Again, obviously
horrible.
Carrying around with you. I'm not saying that she didn't.
No, she needed to be smarter about it. Yeah. But anyway, now I'm like it's like, is this where like that's the seed of that like obsession? I don't know. Anyway.
Seems like a safe bet to me.
Yeah.
I can't think of many movies that have a more excruciating diary being read aloud scene than this.
There's sort of the Mean Girls like burn book thing.
But that's
later too.
That's honestly, watching this, I'm like, that feels like a more tepid version of this. This feels more real and more bracing than anything in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
How did you like it, Chris?
It's good. It's a good movie. It's very weird. I think the things that make it good are the fact that it, I think it pretty much, like, I don't know what the act structure of this movie is. I don't know that I could pin that down. The plot is very peculiar and meandering, and really just comes down to her interior life and figuring out what her deal is and why why she so fucked up like that? But it's like, yeah, it's good. She's very good in it. The acting is all by and large pretty good, which is unusual for a movie that has this many kids in it.
Yeah.
Even, Marion Hawthorne, I guess, is the kid who probably has the second most acting to do, maybe her friends. But all the kids in it are pretty good. And yeah, I like that whatever informal code children's movies nowadays play by, and even in those days typically played by the child movies Hays Code was broken in a number of ways in this movie that I find very funny.
Yeah. No, it's just good. Just a good movie.
Yeah.
The things that make you feel weird, that's good. It's good when movies make you feel weird and make you think about it, make you think, well, that's not right. I don't know. I read a thing of David Lynch talking about Mulholland Drive and saying that people see it and they're like, well, it doesn't mean anything. And then somebody will say, well, it means this. And then you say, well, no, it doesn't mean that. Yeah. And so it's like, well, okay, so you do know that it means something and you see that there's something that's true that it means, at least to you. I think he meant like, no, that you see just generally what it actually secretly means. Yeah. And I think that having a like cheery ending where things aren't actually resolved is good and interesting and meaningful for people that will be locked into that, and the people that aren't, they wouldn't have appreciated it anyway, and they just they fill in the gap with the makeup apology scene. Just because it's for kids doesn't mean it has to be fucking, have a lesson. Not everything has to have a fucking lesson. Yeah. Some things are just a story. Sometimes you just tell a story.
Closer to life.
Yeah.
Things are just happening.
Yes. Yeah. Shit just happens. And what you think about it is the significance that you give it. If the movie's just like, so as we see, then it's bad to spy or something, it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, sure. But you could have said that in a sentence, you don't need a whole movie anyway. So it's good. Harriet the Spy is good. Everybody acts good in it. Surprised at the lack of named people. Michelle Trachtenberg, very, very, very good as a kid. And young kid and young adult. This is most of her career. Very, very sad. Sorry she has passed away so unexpectedly early. And I think everybody should see this movie. It's a good movie. Show it to your kids. Yeah. Says I. Obviously, Jessica, you'll get to answer that question in and amongst all these other questions. So.
Wait, what?
You know how there's questions at the end of the show?
Okay.
You've listened to the show? You've been on the show?
Yes.
One other
permission to treat as a hostile guest.
I don't
what's the most kid-friendly bit?
The most kid-friendly bit. God, what happened in that movie we just watched?
Almost nothing.
I think like any of the the scene where they go into the whimsical like junk garden, and then like the magical nanny like pulls a bottle off of a tree and then they all just chug it, and it's like something that doesn't really make sense, but as a kid it was just like a very enchanting moment. It wasn't like a necessary scene at all, but I think that was the most kid friendly in terms of like respecting kid logic kid, like the kid of it all. Kid stuff, kids.
Yeah, kids.
If that was the kid decade. Was the
90s were the decade of the kid.
Certainly for me.
Yeah.
How do you think it affected you?
I think that it made me spy on my neighbors. It made me do breaking and entering. It made me do surveillance. It made me extremely paranoid.
and it made me the woman I am today.
When would somebody walk in on you watching this?
Yeah, when she's getting rubbed with the paint, for sure, is like, because it goes on for so long and she's screaming and it's like truly disturbing. It feels like it's from another movie a little bit.
Yeah. Would you show this to any future children?
Yeah, I think so. This is like a quality kids movie, like I couldn't remember because I haven't seen it since I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was like, you just liked what we like. We're kids.
Yep. As the commercial tells us.
Yeah. Like Apple Jacks.
Yeah.
But then, like, when you watch kids' movies as an adult, you can, like, just tell, like, oh, this is, like, better quality than other kids' movies. Like, I just rewatched Swan Princess, which was another one that was really, really important to me as a kid. I watched that over and over and over and over again. It is not good at all. Nothing is good. The animation is bad. Yeah. The storyline is bad. The lessons it imparted was bad. The body dysmorphia it encourages is bad because she looks like this microphone stand.
Yeah.
The songs are bad, but this is like good. Like, you know, the whole montage scene where they just like go to a movie. It's like they didn't need to do that, but that was like, I don't know. It just heightened the atmosphere of it all.
Yeah.
And what would you say this says about society at the time?
Oh my God.
Don't laugh. It's not funny.
I think
what about society?
Different parameters of how we defined class, or like our like minimum expectations of what it means to be like considered poor, or like what's substandard housing. I think the kids were outside a lot more and unsupervised, which is like, I don't know. They tell me it's different now. I don't actually know. I don't know what kids are doing now.
I don't watch the children. That's not my
but I don't
job
see
at the library.
swarms of children like running around like unsupervised in the park, terrorizing each other. And I guess this movie is saying that's bad. Like, they should not be left to their own devices. They create a Lord of the Flies type society.
Yeah. Alright, that's about it for this episode. Our theme music is by Seth Milstein, aka No Rush. Find him at norush85.bandcamp.com. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you can. Subscribe on Patreon at patreon.com/nowweknow. And talk to us on Twitter at nowweknowpod, and follow us on Instagram under the same name. Want to be a part of the show? Well, call the Now We Know hotline at 415-349-3659. Leave a message.
So now we know. But what do we know?
Rose is displeased. What to do?
Brad is the executive plumber.
Does your kind ever think about love, Chuck?
I'll ask him, but I don't think he'll be very keen. He's already got one, you see.
If I were the boy in the purple socks, I'd hang myself.
You know now.
Bye.
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Bye.